Welcome back to the channel. Tonight is a great night. We're here at the Beau Rivage. I want to start off by introducing my boy right here, Nitwit Poker. Met him probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was roughly a year and a half, 2 years roughly. Yeah.
He was nice enough. He's worked all day, hardworking man.
Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you coming all the way down here tonight to do this interview. Poker players, we're about to give you the realest thing if you're a low stakes player. And also, we're going to get into a little bit of content creating.
Sounds like a plan.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask you some questions, then we'll just freelance from there. Go ahead and just tell the viewers, first off, how you got playing poker recreationally.
Yeah, so it probably goes back to when I was a kid. Grandmother was probably the most competitive person you'll ever meet in your entire life. And we would play spades, rummy, really simple games that usually were four players for my brother, my sister, and maybe some of my cousins would come in and play as well. So that's where my love of cards came from. Gambling probably more so after high school, right into college. We played a lot of Boo-Ray. That got started, and then we watched a movie called Rounders.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and so that kind of kicked off our poker right there. And then also, during that time, there was a little site called Party Poker, so it made it very, very attainable to be able to play online and learn quite a few things then. And I have been playing ever since for, I would say, 25-ish years. So, yeah.
Was you a winning player online back then?
Back then, heck no.
Me neither.
No.
That was so terrible.
No, and I went between that one and Full Tilt a lot.
Yeah, I was full tilt.
And we all kind of, well, maybe not everybody knows what happens, but y'all should look it up if you don't.
Black Friday, I talked about it when TikTok went down. I said, man, I've seen this movie before.
For sure.
This is a rerun.
For sure.
So 25 years of playing poker.
25 years.
Man, that's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot for the soul.
It can be. It can be. It just depends. Yeah. So poker obviously has its ups and downs. So it's a constant tug of war for sure.
So when I started doing my thing, I'm pretty sure that the first time, actually before I ever met you or anyone kind of like pointed me in your direction, I'd actually stumbled across one of your vlogs. And the reason that I stumbled across your vlog and I was excited to watch it personally was I was watching all the vloggers back then. I mean, I watched all of them.
Yeah.
But when I saw you, the reason that it really grabbed my eyes is because you was in Biloxi. And Biloxi was one of the places I played. And the Beau has, being uncapped, it's just a different game than most of what you got. So when I saw that, man, I was like, man, I want to see this guy. And you'd have an episode here and there. And so tell me in the channel, what made you even think about trying to vlog and even taking that chance? Because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so at that time, this is before COVID, I was living in Alaska. And I really didn't have a whole lot of, I guess, areas or places to play just because of the town I was in. There was one really, really good game that I was involved with. And so a lot of it was just, for me, I'm always someone who is grasping and trying to get a hold of as much knowledge as I can. So I wanted to be able to learn. So if I wasn't playing as much as I had regularly done, I was like, well, let me kind of look at some of the things on YouTube and maybe work on my game. So probably like most people, when you put in poker vlogger, and I don't know if it's the same anymore, Brad Owens was the first one to come up. So his was actually the first one I looked at. I was like, now this is interesting. This is something very different. They actually had this guy going into a casino. He has a camera showing you his hole cards. He's got the picture overlay in the top, I think it was left. And then he also talked about the hands and put out the little graph. It's like, well, this is really cool. And then I believe between him and I don't think it was quite Rampage yet, but Rampage was like the next one I watched, I think, when I moved back to the States. So saw that, I was like, well, they're doing it. When we moved back, and I've been a part of the Mississippi community since 2014. 2012, we moved in 14. So I know what this place had to offer. I was like, well, I don't see anybody really doing that here.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, maybe I could give this a shot. And and that's kind of where I started.
Now, I will say, like, it's crazy because the first vlogger that I actually ever saw was Trooper. And it was actually because he was here. He was out here, but he did I can't remember what they were. They were like, oh, man, the little satellites. He was playing the satellites.
Satellite tournaments, which were popular back then. You don't see a whole lot of them here anymore.
So he was the first one I saw, and the only reason that I even watched this video is because I happened to come. I was looking at something poker, and it's probably like WSOP or something crazy, or the old World Series of Poker is probably what it was.
Right.
And he popped up, and I saw him going into the boat, and I was like, "Oh man, I'll watch this." And then after that, I found Nimi, and I remember when Nimi kind of brought Owen in, and Owen started his, and I was like, that's when I was just like. It was bad. I was going into work like talking hands, and everybody was like, "Dude, would you shut up about poker? You're an idiot.
Sure.
Why you out there thinking you're gonna gamble and become this guy?" But it's definitely when you start to try to do the poker vlog here, where you're getting pushed back, I guess, from the casinos and everything with the filming and
so you're about to get some real stuff right
that's
now.
what we want. Yeah. We don't keep it 100.
So the first thing I did, because I had been a part of the bow community for a long time, I went the appropriate route. I reached out to the floor manager. I'm not going to say his name. Talked to him, and he said I should get in contact with this other gentleman who happened to run some of the games that Brad Owen and Andrew Nitwit were part of back in Vegas. So I emailed him to see if I could get permission, because I didn't want to do anything where if I were to get kicked out or banned, I wouldn't be able to come play one of my favorite places to play at.
Right.
So he pretty much, long story short, just politely told me no. Not at the time because of the way the rules were structured for them. So I was like, okay, so now I'm going to have to be a little more creative. So I went to the IP and just started doing it with the intention of, if they are going to catch me, then I will stop. And
right.
I had a few tools that helped me out to make it discreet, and so that's kind of what I did in order to get the graphics. Like I had didn't want to show anybody's faces. If I had any kind of footage that even had a face, I would blur it out.
Right.
Didn't have any of the audio as far as the people talking. Maybe a few chip prints here and there, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't I wasn't stepping on anybody's rights or anything of that nature. I just needed the pictures for the content to make it look more appealing, appeasing, and just
to bring
just make
people
you feel
in,
like
you're there.
Like you're there.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's what I did. Not saying that that's what y'all should do, but that's what I did.
And it's crazy that it went that way, because that's the same route I went when I was in Best Bet, and we'll get into the live and all that. But I went all the way up through the chain of command and got to the top person over the poker, and they were like, "Man, we love what you're doing. Let's run it through Best Bet," and Best Bet shut it down. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And I've talked to people like when I was here at the Bow, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't really allow that." And I'm like you, like I guarantee them, like I'm not that guy. You know, I'll send you my stuff. Right. I'll blur out faces. It's just about catching the card, so it's easier to bring the people in, like you said.
Right.
And even in Jacksonville, they shut it down, which I think is terrible. Yet, when the big names come in,
it's kind of allowed.
It's kind of allowed.
Looked away from, which I get it.
Yeah.
But I think, in my opinion, not to get too much off topic, I feel like if they would let more common people that are trying to get started, it would bring more attention, positive attention, I feel, to said poker room or city, community, etc.
So. Exactly. And I've only been here 2 days, 3 days, and I've played about 16 hours, not to go too far into the videos I'll be making, but it's a good environment. Like here, it really is. The Bow's a beautiful place. It is the Bellagio of the South, without a doubt. They've moved the poker room, and it's more up front now. It seems
a lot easier accessible. Yeah, when you first walk in, it's a lot easier to get to. And you're by the buffet, so if you get hungry,
Man, they gave me a few of them. They're trying to make the fat boy hungry.
I will say their comps are pretty good and pretty fair. I've got a pretty good little comp run up to that.
That's good too, because usually they don't really take care of locals as good as they do some of the.
Not typically. Yeah.
Hey, it's way better than Florida, because we get 0 comps.
I know.
And that's that. But so we'll move on from that.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure Egg Roll was the person that kind of like put us in actual contact, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you were right.
And unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it this trip for me, but I'm sure I'll be back out here again. And so I was able to get y'all to come out to the Best Bet with us.
Yep.
And I'd like for you to I'll go ahead and give you the opportunity so you can tell everybody, how was the experience meeting me for the first time, meeting the person that other people now are probably viewing that have never met? Like, how would you explain the whole experience?
Yeah. So the game was set up originally. I believe the idea was you wanted to bring several people that were going down a very similar path as far as the content creation. So I think for the most part you were trying to get a theme of
Yes.
content creators, at least half the table or something along the lines of that. So you reached out to myself, to Egg Roll, to Old Hype Man Ribs,
Yep.
to F2L, Colin, and pretty much gave us the time and then gave us the dates, and so we all kind of worked together to try to get to that. So we all met. You were more than hospitable to everyone. You met us out as soon as we got there. You also paid for our food, which was very generous.
Yeah,
You
bring
didn't have
that
to.
up.
Well, I'm going to bring that.
Y'all came halfway across the country. I mean, that's
I
the
know,
least
I
could
get
do.
it. So you were very hospitable. You hung out with us even when we weren't at the tables, which, if I remember right, it was a pretty short trip. I think it was like 2 days. We were
Yeah.
in and out pretty quick.
Yeah, it was just a quick weekend.
But yeah, and we all had a good time playing cards, hanging out afterwards, talking about everything. The person you see on the camera, I mean, you are who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
You were very genuine. You're very forward with kind of what you're thinking and what you're doing, and you took really good care of us. And I know you were bringing other people in before and after, and I know a lot of people, and I don't want to get too far ahead because we may touch on some of this, but some people that I live in a nearby town were talking about even coming at some point and stuff like that.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I would definitely. Anytime that I can
no,
get out there and have that opportunity, I would definitely take it. I will say, just to put this out here, and I know I've probably said this before, the first day I met you, we went back to the hotel, and right before I went up in the elevator, me and you had a talk, and it wasn't about poker.
it was not.
And I do want to thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And like, it's weird because like when I was meeting everybody, I like Egg Roll was, he was definitely, Egg Roll was full of energy.
He's great.
And yeah, he
He's
is.
really
Yeah. So, but us having that conversation, like me and you went like hit on a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
And now here over time, I know we'll go into some other stuff, but I feel like you're someone that could really, because we have so much that we've done with content creating and stuff like that. So I do want to thank you, and definitely want to thank you again for coming out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem at all. Anytime, my door's always open if you're in town. I know the same as for me as well, for sure.
And I would definitely like to, like I said, when I get back, we'll start working on the best bet thing, and if the doors are shut there, maybe I'll go beat on a couple more doors. Because I don't know, the more I do it, the more I get the itch.
Yeah,
But,
I know. Trust me.
So, been 25 years. You gave the content creating thing, and it's a lot of work. So, present day, right now, how do you feel about poker in your life and content creating?
So, we'll start with the content creating, and then it'll wrap back around to poker. So, the content creating, for people that maybe have given it a try or are thinking about giving it a try, there is a lot that go behind the scenes that take a lot of time and a lot of sacrifice. So on the content side, when I first started, I was getting a lot of positive feedback. I felt like the numbers were kind of right where they were probably supposed to be for somebody starting out. And I was also steadily inclining. Was I doing thousands and millions of views and crazy? No, of course not, but I thought that was unrealistic. And my main goal, my personal goal was, I want to create this content because I like to do it, but if I'm going to make any kind of monetary or money off of it, I would just want enough to make for my poker buy-in, so it covered the cost of me playing poker for downswings.
Right.
So that was mainly that was really my ceiling of goals. Now, of course, if it had blossomed out, then yeah, of course I'd want that. But I was trying to keep them realistic and try to keep them in level. So for me, I'm no longer really creating the videos anymore. Every once in a while I may do a TikTok or something. But the grind and the time and the effort, it felt almost like I had to do it versus when I first started where I wanted to do it and I was very passionate about it. I really,
enjoyment was leaving.
yes, and I felt like almost have to. And not to say I didn't like it, but you know how life is. There are just times where you can't put it out in a consistent way, and I think that's part of the algorithm, it being consistent. And I just wasn't able to put it into it. So like one video, anywhere from 5 to I would say 15 minutes. Editing time was anywhere from 10 to 15 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah. When you start going into the graphics and all that,
It's a time.
yes.
Yeah. So if I had just done something maybe where I did like 1 or 2 takes maybe and maybe some sort of hand review, maybe I should have started there and maybe built up slower on the editing side. And maybe that wouldn't have caused, I guess, the burnout, if you want to call it something.
It's definitely hard. I will say that, like, and it's because I remember it's crazy because I can picture this thumbnail in my head right now, and it's where you had the rock climber going up, and I remember looking at it and I was like, man, that's such a great thumbnail, and I know it probably took a while to get it exactly like you want it, and then
I don't know if you're like me, I'll look at it 100 times and it will go around and around and finally I'll just settle on something sometimes just because I feel like I can nitpick myself to death,
What I hate is like every time I make a video, and this is every time I make a video, it don't matter what it is, I'll post it and then I'll go back like later on after it's been posted because it looks different. Because that's another thing. Like one of the big upgrades I want to do in the future is a lot of the stuff I do is on a laptop.
Yeah.
And I want a bigger desktop with a screen, multiple screens and everything. And I'm pretty sure you did your stuff on a laptop too.
I did, and I had I had 1 to 2 additional screens attached to the laptop.
See,
you have to, and I don't want to get too. Well, maybe I should get into it.
You can.
So the system I used, I'm an Apple person, love it or hate it, I'm stuck with it. I've been into the Kool-Aid for too long. So I used was it Final Cut Pro, I believe, and so you have that set up, but then you have all your other tools, all your other videos, your audios, all that separate. So I really needed the second screen to deal with the files and the cuts while I was doing the live. So. But you know how that is, yeah.
Luckily, the one I use is CapCut, and it's more dummy proof. Like it really is
nice.
like editing for dummies, though.
It makes it really,
it's user friendly.
It is. I wish YouTube had something like that.
Yeah, built in where you can do it all there.
And maybe they have, and I haven't looked for it. Anything, but I don't think there is. Yeah.
When they took down TikTok, I didn't like. I was like, well, TikTok went down. I mean, that sucked because my biggest following's on TikTok.
Right.
But then I was like, well, okay, well now I'm gonna really like dig into the YouTube thing, and I was like, all right, and I get all ready, I'm like over the TikTok's gone, whatever, and I go in there and I go to upload CapCut, and it's like it's banned, and I'm like, are you serious? it didn't even click to me that that's a part of it.
Part of TikTok, right?
So I went and got like I think it's like Final or DaVinci Resolve or whatever, started learning it, and I was like, this is so hard.
And that's a complex one. I've looked into that one.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare.
It is. There is a lot of learning curve if you have no back. And I have somewhat of a technological background, but I was never involved in anything like that. And that is so the 10 to 12 hours of editing for 5 to 15 minutes. That doesn't include my learning time up front.
Yeah.
When I was really bad at it. And putting in the time to watch videos on how to do this stuff.
Right, and that's like you said, you had a little bit of a background in it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Like most of the stuff, like TikTok was easy because it was all like on my phone, so I'll figure it out. But man, it's rough.
It's difficult, yeah. So unless you really love that process of it, it can be frustrating. I think, to be honest with you, it probably steers people in the wrong direction as far as unmotivating them. That wasn't necessarily my unmotivation. That was part of it, just knowing I had to put in the time.
Yeah.
But for somebody, you could probably attest to that more than me. Like, I'm sure that became kind of almost daunting.
Yes. And you like you said, you never expect instant results, or you like it ain't like I'm gonna wake up one day and I'm gonna be Brad Owen or Andrew Newey or to me,
it'd been nice.
It would have been nice, but like my favorite vlogger after I got to like watching all of them was Jamin Burton, just because he was so good, and he made it more like the graphics and the comic book, like almost a little bit he put in it. I loved it.
His storytelling is so
Yes,
different.
that's what I wanted to be like. When I saw him, I was like, man, I want to be like James.
He could tell his story very eloquently and make you feel like you were. I mean, you were there in the room with him. His to me, it was probably somewhat maybe simple, but his little cartoon intros of himself and stuff like that, just simple stuff like that, kind of caught my eye.
And how he came up with the Drawing Dead thing. 'Cause the Walking Dead was such a big thing.
So he understood.
And he knew, let me catch and like pull off that. Like Jamin was a very intelligent person. And like he had a little bit of comedic relief to it. Because Brad's kind of dry, I think.
Very.
And Andrew's kind of dry. Rampage, I remember when Rampage started, not to get off on the vlogger thing again, but I remember Rampage was terrible. He hit it at the right time because he got right there in COVID and it opened up in Boston before anywhere else. And he was the only vlogger for a little bit.
And then he started winning some pretty big tournaments.
Yeah.
And that's when I think I got a hold of him, because somebody sent me his stuff when he was in the middle of winning an online tournament, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. There's a few ways to get there for sure, and all of them will probably come in different ways. But specifically with poker, it's such a small niche already, so it's harder to get people interested in those stories.
And everybody vibes to a different type of person. Which I'll go ahead and let you jump into where you're at in the poker, and then we'll talk about some things like that.
So I live on the Gulf Coast near Biloxi, and I came into this game and kind of started. I won't say taking it over, but kind of started running it for him to make it easier, essentially. And so I got it to where I was essentially playing every other week, and it's a game that still continues on, right? In this game, it is a super splashy game. It is a great game. The problem is I've been on the wrong side of the splash. So I'm going to say the last 8 out of 9 sessions I have lost. And it has not been small losses. So what does that look like? This is probably, 25 years roughly of poker?
Mm-hmm.
This is literally the worst run I've ever been.
Worst downswing.
It has been the worst downswing. And so you can, I'm assuming most of your audience is going to have played poker.
Yep.
So downswing happens for multitude of reasons. It's never just one thing. Variance is one.
Yes.
Your mental acuity is another. Outside sources, or outside, maybe not sources, but outside influences that you bring with you to the game.
A lot of factors.
Can be another. And then when you're going through a downswing, adapting your game that may not be your game is
right.
Right?
This is all good things. It's going to lead into something really great right now.
Yeah.
We're about to get into meat and potatoes about some poker talk in just a second.
So it started off, just typical losses. I don't think I was playing bad at that point. I think everybody has adjustments they can work on to be a better poker player.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I started to kind of review my gameplay, I was like, okay, well, it wasn't that bad of a night, right? So a couple sessions go by. This isn't atypical. Usually, you're on streaks where you can't lose. No matter what you do, you can't lose. You're on streaks when you can't win. About halfway through, I started to notice, I was like, okay, this is starting to kind of mess with my confidence in the game. Okay, so now at this point, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing wrong? All those kind of things are playing a factor into it. So now I'm trying to adjust my game and then play a style that is not suitable for me personally, right? For this game being so swingy, there's a lot of action. Every street just about, every hand just about. One of the games, actually that was a good game for me, we had, and this is a 1-2 game and it's uncapped, by the way.
Right.
We had all-ins by the flop for an hour straight. So you can just imagine what kind of environment that breeds. So if you can hang with it, whatever your game style is, you're going to have very lucrative nights.
Yes.
But when the variance is very bad, if you don't pull out to...
It's almost like PLO swings.
Actually, it is in a hold'em.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Because one, you've got a mixture of players, and there are some really good players in that game. But you've got a mixture of players that are really good gamblers too.
Right.
And then you got some players that are still learning and trying to find their way. So, poker players get so mad at the way other people play, but the truth is everyone's on a different level and a different understanding. Right?
Yes.
And you're not going to be able to control that. Right? So, we get closer to the last couple sessions. This was the last time I made a vlog on TikTok. Aces versus nines. The guy goes all in blind.
Yep.
Doesn't even look at it, and the board runs out a nine. So, and he didn't even turn over his hand until after we presented done with the river.
Then he pulled them over one at a time.
One at a time, peeled them one at a time. So I was like, well, does he have some weird like nine deuce or something like that? But no, it was pocket nines.
And so that's just like the last punch.
Yeah, that was one of them, right?
Yeah.
So this last game was pretty bad as well. I did some things that I typically wouldn't do. Straddle, we had a multi-straddle all the way up until about, I think, like $32 or something like that. Well, I was at 32, so I committed a good portion of my stack. So I didn't even look. I just went all in just because I was already committed, right?
Yeah.
Just typical stuff I wouldn't do. Also, because I deal the game too, I think it takes away a lot more of my focus than I realized. But I'm not young.
Yeah.
I'm an older man. My brain still works really well. It just doesn't work as fast, so it doesn't compute all the data.
I mean, it's hard to keep track of all that, especially in more of an unorganized. Well, not unorganized, but you know what I mean.
No, it's more of it rides on a friendly game.
Yeah.
It's
so
more,
there's a lot of talk. There's drinks flowing with everybody.
There's a lot of banter. It's very friendly. So you're
trying to keep up with the action.
And I'm trying to keep up with the action. Make sure that they're keeping up with the action.
Yeah,
and
you're trying to
the
run
drinks
it
are flowing.
and play.
It becomes a little more. Yeah, it gives a little more. I have to I give more of my focus toward that part of the game.
Right.
So that has a lot to do with it too. Things I probably wouldn't have done. I didn't give myself enough time to analyze, and some of the information I didn't see because I wasn't paying attention. That should be an excuse, but you factor all those things in. Last session, I mean, the bleeding has gotten to the point where it's taking a significant toll as far as my money that I specifically use for gambling, my purse or
poker bankroll.
My bankroll. Yeah, I should say poker purse, but poker bankroll. You know what I mean?
Money did it.
Yeah. So for right now, I am personally taking a break, and it's going to be a pretty long break. I think also when you get into poker, to be a good player, you have to free yourself up from the attachment of what that dollar value means.
Yes, it's so hard for someone like us.
Correct. So we have to completely detach it and say, okay, these are now chips. Because if you don't do that, what happens? You start making bad plays because you're afraid to lose money.
Yes.
So, and I think most poker players can attest to that. So I think, for me personally, I've done such a good job of detaching it at the table. I'm not respecting the money now. I think you can go that way. You know, there's a player I met in Alaska. He's passed away since. But he would always tell me, you know, my style was so much like yours, and I just evolved into this, and now and he was somebody that played every hand, and he was addicted to the adrenaline and just the gamble itself. And so I think I'm not quite on that level, but I'm somewhere in between where it has completely taken me off my game. So for me personally, I'm taking a step back and going to recenter and refocus myself to when I can feel like I can play as good as I know I can play. Then that will be something I come back to.
Well, first off, I want to say I think I commend you for coming on here and being real with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, we're going to talk about some stuff feeding off that. But when, in a way, how you're talking about how the game you're doing, when I started to go on the live streams, one of the very first ones I went on, I'm still playing my style. I was tight, aggressive, and then things happened after that first one, and I was like, I started to look at no, it's not about me winning or losing no more. It's about me going on there entertaining people, and I started to play worse and worse and worse, and I knew it, I knew I was playing bad, but it was just man, I didn't respect the money no more. It was I'm just going here to entertain. If I win, I win,
and if not,
right. So I totally get where and I took a break.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one to say, I come out here and I talk to you downstairs about a hand, but soon as I walked in the door, I went on the heater. That video's already come out. Like I win 750 in promotion money. It takes all the pressure off. But I've been here for 2 days, and I can honestly say that I played bad. I played bad, and the reason was I played way too conservative. I didn't play my game. I played scared. And that's crazy. And you've played poker with me before when I was out here months back.
In fact, you came to the game when
yes,
I'm speaking about. Correct?
Yes, and it is a great game with great people. Like I love the game, and I know this is gonna sound bad, but I told someone earlier about this. Every time when I'd go play on the streams or whatever, one of the things I did to take away the anxiety and be relaxed was drink. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time I've been in a casino for 3 days and never had a drink.
Yep.
And it's different. It's different.
It is. And to be fair, you play freer when you're drunk. I feel like you play free, not necessarily better, but you play freer when you're drunk because the voices there telling you yes and no.
Yeah.
Subsided a lot of that. Right?
Yeah, it takes away the anxiety. For me, it takes away the anxiety, and I know that other players are like that. Yes. Poker players. Uh-huh. Now there's a point where you drink too much, then you're off the rails. But But one thing I want to go back to the poker thing because I know this is right now in the poker world, and I'm not talking about 5-10. I'm not talking about these live streams y'all are watching. I am definitely not talking about online poker. When I'm about to say, first thing you need to understand is online poker and live low stakes is 2 totally different things. Online, I don't want to go too far into this. Online, we're just going to say is a lot of people playing GTO, solvers, and all that. I'm not saying it ain't good to be staked. Correct. And I'm not saying that solvers and all that can't teach you something in theory. But all that, down there in that poker room in Jacksonville, you can throw all that out the window.
Yeah, I think it's definitely somewhere in between. I think it's a good way to... So, for me, if I don't know how I feel or what to do in a situation, I'll go back to some of that. Right? I'll go back to, this is what you probably should do in this situation. If I'm on the fence, sometimes I'll go with that statistic. But the solvers are basically solving against themselves, right? Yes. It gives you all the different information on the different scenarios on which path to take. When it first came out, I don't even think they were doing that. I think it was a simple yes or no, this is right or wrong. But now they're giving you, if you deviate this way, it'll show you this. But we're not playing against computers.
Yeah, you go down there and you 3-bet and you get called by Deuce 3 offsuit because they love the dirty diaper and you're just, you can't put them on that range.
No, you're not going to be fair. And sometimes that, especially if you're not versed in it, and I am by no means versed in it at all. I know a little bit about it, but if you're not versed in it and you're trying to apply these techniques, you're probably doing yourself more harm by doing it.
Yes.
So until I guess we're playing against robots, which maybe that's a thing coming soon. I don't know. GTO has its place, but the way we were taught,
hand reading and all that, even ranges and stuff, like it's good.
We would narrow the range down. We would try to put you on a hand back in the day. That's what we would do, right? And so I still do that. I mean, I can't help myself.
I mean, you try to get as specific as you can.
Can for sure.
Earlier I put it on a hand. I still called.
Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of those, and the players, depending on the player, you got to understand where they at with that.
Yes. I think that's the biggest thing, and this is where I really like to get your opinion, because you're playing in an amazing game with some amazing players.
That's true.
And you've played out here in the Mississippi Gulf area. I've played in the Florida area. I've played out in Vegas. And I think when we're talking 1-2, 1-3, even a little 2-5, 2-5, you're starting to get to the better player pool and stuff. But I believe that figuring out players, the player images, stuff like that is one of the most important things in mental game. Because I was downstairs earlier, and I was talking to a guy, and he'll never watch this probably, but he was a great guy, and like he's traveled, played poker. He's probably a grinder, honestly. That's probably what he does. And we were talking about it, and the one thing that I told him is like you're talking about taking a break. I took a break for a little bit, and I didn't go play poker in Florida for like almost 6 months. Yeah. And I've took breaks before, and every time I go back and I see the same players playing the same style with the same leaks, and you would think like, man, it'll change. And we both looked at each other at the same time, looked at each other, and said, ego.
Uh-huh.
And it's crazy because the reason I said I commend you so much to come on here, and one thing, the reason I want to have a channel, and I go back to these vloggers that I want people to understand. I love all the vloggers. I'll never say anything bad about none of them. But Andrew Neeme, Brad Owen, all these dudes were playing professionally for years before they came on to be a vlogger.
That's right.
So they have went through what me and you've been going through, where
Mm-hmm.
you have just been beat down. And I don't think people truly understand that, because most of the poker players that I see most of them will only tell you when they're winning, which is such a disservice for the community and themselves.
I think it definitely takes it. So when you first get involved with poker, you're like, the first thought is, okay, either you like numbers or you like cards or you like both. I happen to like both. So I'm like, okay, so this should be a beatable game because this is numbers and a card game, right? What they don't tell you, and the information we were given back in the early 2000s and whatnot, you could be a consistent winner, which is true to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
I think what doesn't get talked about enough is what variance looks like.
Yes.
And to me, variance isn't just, there's a percentage from 1 to 100. Well, variance isn't going to talk about your first 100 hands. So it's a variance that rolls and rolls and rolls. And so you can go on upswings and downswings that last. I mean, some of these professional players talk about losing years, right?
Yes.
Not just losing sessions,
Yeah.
weeks, months,
Yes.
half a year. They're talking about year and years, specifically tournament. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you, well, okay, so these guys are professional players, and you're talking about having losing years.
Yes.
That's something that doesn't get talked about seriously enough. And I think this is a good time for me to insert that when you choose to gamble, you should do it responsibly and not gamble with stuff that would take away from your livelihood, right?
Yes, or change your home life. Or
Yes,
anything like that.
correct. And I think that's also something that doesn't get talked about enough too. Is people think they can just come back into it, beat the game, and put themselves in a bad situation.
Yeah, it's the swings are rough, and like I think what a lot of people don't understand is you can be the best player at the table.
Correct.
And you could be the best player at that table for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you could be a loser. It's just that's how it works.
Yes.
And I feel like it's not being told like that, especially at the low stakes level, where like most people that are playing the low stakes are not. They don't have like. At the end of the day, your vloggers have backing of some type, whether it's sponsorship deals or they have backers
Or a job, or a 9-to-5 job.
Yes,
maybe, or
like
something.
they got something. A lot of them, like for me, the reason that I can take a lot of my chances, I'm not like social media, TikTok. All these have gave me the ability to take chances and to go on trips, and
Right.
I'm not using the money that's for my family, my wife.
Correct.
But to like, I never like jumped out and was like, oh, I want to be a professional poker player.
Right.
Like I've always told everybody, I said that really was not my thing. But I'd like to play a lot and be able to bring content, like content creating, and bring in more awareness to the truth and just average day. Like I like meeting people.
Right.
And without
That's
poker,
100% correct. I can attest to that.
yeah, like going back to like the player, and I'll give Turkey here a shout out. One thing Turkey always says is he gets so mad because everybody talks about this and that, and he's like, I like to just sit at the table and play the player.
Mm-hmm.
And at lower stakes, that's really a lot of it. You were playing against that player. You learn a player and you play that player, and he's dead right.
It's more exploitive. Yeah.
Yes.
Their games. It's funny too, because we've all been through that, where you think your game is so good that maybe there's no leaks, or like you play, or you have the notion that you played well. And I go years back and I'm like I didn't play that well.
Yeah.
And so, but that's a lot of time the lower stakes. That's kind of where they're stuck at. A lot of, especially the older players, right? They're caught in the way they're used to playing. Yeah.
And it's weird they never change. It goes back to what I said, like they never change.
They don't. The truly good players realize, hey, I'm not playing so good, or hey, I want to continue learning, and they adapt accordingly, right?
And I mean, it's like this trip, it'll be an upswing for me, but I mean, really, the promotions helped. But I mean, overall, I won. But I told you before we came up here, today I played like absolute trash. And honestly, the whole trip, I did not play what I know that I can play at.
Right.
So, I mean, I got a lot of work to do. I'm rusty. I just came off the break you're talking about going on.
Yeah, and so like I mean, you got to get back into it. Just like any kind of sport. I mean, it's like riding a bike, but you got to get back into the swing and the practice of everything. So you'll be back to where you are. So I'm gonna have a question for you, if I may.
Go ahead, man.
So, what's it like playing the stakes in that capped game in Jacksonville versus like the uncapped game here? Do you feel more free? You can play more of your style because the 1-3 is uncapped.
Man, that's a good question, and I'm gonna answer it two ways. If you would have took the me that went into the very first Jack stream when I was playing all the time and I had all the confidence in the world,
Yeah.
I would have went down here to the bow and I would have probably bought in 500 to 1,000. This trip I bought in for 300, and that right there shows you the self doubt I had in myself. And yesterday I told you I went and played at the IP, and I went to the bow down there to play. Cause I told you the night before I'd probably play the whole time at the bow. Cause just something about the IP, the vibe. I don't know what it is.
It's different.
It just gives me it. But when I was there, I knew it was more of the morning crowd. I guess would be the way to say it. You're
That's a good way to act. It's the night crowd will bring a few of the ones that are willing to put more money into the pot, but for the most part, it plays almost like a limit game, kind of. Yeah.
So I went down to the bow Saturday morning, or I'm so I thought I came. It's Monday morning. I thought I came here on the weekend. I've been messed up on my days, so I went down there and there was like a long list, and I looked up on the Bravo app and I saw that it was seats open at the IP.
Right.
Now I'm gonna be honest with you. There was a part of me that was like, I just want to go over there where I like the. But there's something about that room down there in the bow here that you feel like there's going to be all this action. It's uncapped. Everybody's going to be going crazy, even though it's uncapped over there now too. But I went over there and I grinded out a win. But then when I went down there this morning, like I sat at the table with. Now there was a couple good players there. I'm not going to lie, but after the first hour and a half, it took me to be like, dude, you got this. Like trying to build up that.
Confidence.
Yeah.
It's important.
Because mine got shattered, honestly, when I got on the stream. I started playing bad and other things weren't going well. And it's real, man. It's real. And what gets me, it goes back to I like to call them front runners, the people that all they do is talk about the winnings. And
that's easy to talk about.
Yes.
That's the easy stuff to talk about. No matter how good you are, how skilled you are, or even how lucky you are, your downswing is going to happen. And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people don't talk about it enough, and it probably should be talked about a little bit more because those are the moments where you need your poker community to come and to kind of rally you around, right?
Yeah.
Just so you can talk about it, just an event, and be like, what would you have done? Is there something I could have done?
Yeah.
Whether there's a right or wrong answer given and taken, I don't think that's the important part. The important part is knowing that you're not alone in that situation.
Yeah. And that's a really good point because I felt it a little bit here, but before I met y'all and really all the TikTok, and I started meeting a lot of people through TikTok, I went to Vegas and I told my wife, I said, that was when I was like watching the menu and I was like really into everything. And I was getting good and I was winning in Florida, like consistent winner. And I was like, I want to go to Vegas because I felt that was the way. Just I'm gonna take 4 or 5 days. I think it was 5 days.
The pipe dream, right?
And I just wanted to go out there and like test myself. And it did not go well.
Yeah.
Like I was getting coolered and everything else. But I was out there and I was by myself. And I had no one to talk to. And that was when, like I had a video I made on one of my, I wasn't on TikTok at the time, so I remember I made a video, I called it The Abyss. And it was before the top hat and everything. And I remember I shot it in in the hotel room and I was like, this is it, it's over, I'm not going to make it, I'm just not cut out for this. But I didn't have it wasn't like I had Poker Buddy with me or anyone to talk to. And there's like, you're just with random strangers out in Vegas. I didn't know no one back then to go talk to. So I'm just like walking the streets of Vegas after, losing top boat to quads. Like, I don't understand. I did everything right.
What did I do wrong?
Yes.
Why me? It's a lot of why me. It's a lot of why me for sure. I don't. we're all going to go through that. We're all going to get, and so I think what you get better at as you play the game longer is being able to get those emotions and those thoughts in, and then immediately dumping them and moving on.
It's so hard to do.
It is very hard, especially when you're on like a significant downswing. It's tough. So
It always made me wonder how freeing it has to be. You know who Bill Klein is? He's an older gentleman. A lot of times he plays and gives his winnings to charity.
kind of like what's his name did. It was known forever. I can't think of his name. Barry.
Greenstein.
Yeah.
I always wonder what it'd be
familiar,
like
yeah.
if you could just go play for the fun of it and the monetary, like being low stakes like us. Even though it's like money to gamble with. Our goal, I believe, my goal is because I'm doing 1,000 hours, and that's really to prove to myself, hey, I can still cut it at low stakes. But my goal is to get to 2.5 and kind of progress. I don't know if I'll ever get over. I might take some shots at 5.10 or whatever, but I want to be a good winning 2.5 player.
Yeah.
That's like that's how I'll be like, okay, I accomplished something.
Right.
So, but I always wonder what it'd be freeing if you the money was totally not or maybe it's a competitive thing.
I was about to. That could be only it, because if the money, let's say, I don't want to say had no value, but it has maybe significantly less value than somebody like you or I, where the money means a little bit more. What's the point of playing? Are you doing it just to say I'm better than you? Because that would have to be it. The competitive thing of saying, hey, I'm very good at this, right?
Because it'd be no different than like a free roll or playing, free poker where everybody just goes nuts.
Does it make you too free, where you make decisions you probably shouldn't?
Right. It takes away from the actual spirit of the game.
Yeah. So I don't know. That'd be interesting. I've never been in that situations except for the free rolls and stuff, so I don't know how that would be. Maybe one day I'll get there, huh? Maybe you'll get there too. I don't know.
So, one more question. Well, we'll finish it up like this because I don't want to keep you too late. Any other questions you got for me?
No, that was
the only one.
That's it, brother.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing since you're taking a break, WSOP 2025 is going to be on pause for you.
We'll get back to it.
Get back to
We'll
it.
get back to it. I won't say no, because you never know. I could have a whim, or I could feel like maybe I am recentered and rebalanced enough to come out. But
I mean, it's just one tournament.
Yeah, one tournament, right? So that will be to be continued, I think.
I mean, you got what's the date? Today's in the February. You got 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
I mean, it's just one tournament.
One tournament.
I ain't
Right?
trying to twist his arm,
One tournament.
Well,
It could be the tournament to turn things around, right?
I mean, I will be honest with you. I don't plan to go out there and win no tournament.
Yeah.
I'm just going out there to get to see and communicate and be with the community. I mean, anything that I do. I will say this though. I just want to cash a tournament and be on the Hendon Mob so I can look my name up. Hey, I'm there.
That's awesome.
I want people when they get to the end of my eulogy or whatever and be like, no, he's on the Hendon Mob. Look there, Mad Hatter.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's good.
But I'm trying to think if there's anything. I felt like there was something else I was going to ask you, but at the moment I can't think about it. No. Why can't I be Mariano? Mariano wins every time, it seems like.
I don't know. I wish I could be too. He had that one hand 6 months ago where he had won a ton of money off of a huge cooler. What was it?
He's cooler than a lot of people.
Yeah,
he's had these
full house or
almost.
something.
He was just winning It's crazy. I remember when he started. He started off just like me and everything. I don't know. It would be nice to have an editor and all the other stuff they do have.
And I think that's maybe something we didn't really get into as well. I think as you become a little bit bigger, then you could give control over to an editor, which would make things less time consuming. Yeah.
If I had the ability, man, that'd be great. Because the quality would be so much better than my dumb behind trying to edit some stuff up.
It's always about time, I think. We all have the same amount of time. Nobody's different than anybody else in that realm. So anything you can do to free up that's definitely helpful. But yeah, I mean, your content is great stuff. It's always been good stuff. It's going to continue to be good stuff.
I appreciate it.
Just the opportunity is going to come at some point. And once it does, then the whole world will get to see what we already see.
I appreciate it. So I will ask you this question, and then we'll sum it up.
Okay.
But 1,000 hour challenge. I know you know what's going on,
Yep.
and you've been keeping up. knowing what you know and playing for as long as you did, playing because everything will be 1-3 pretty much now that Florida's pretty much went to 1-3. Where do you think hourly I'll be at in 1,000 hours?
That's gonna be tough. That is a tough question.
Well, they're not where you think I'll be, but what do you think would be a decent hourly for the people?
Well,
to have an
I mean,
idea?
so if you're being realistic, anything over than like what an average American job would be great, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like anywhere from the $25 or $20 range up, and I think you'll hit that. I think you could be somewhere in the $50 to $100.
Really?
I think you could.
Wow. He's got a lot of confidence in me.
I think you could.
I think 8 to 12 big blinds an hour is
realistic.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure 1-3 if we do 10 big blinds an hour over 1,000 hours, $30 an hour. If I got to that point, being as rusty as I am, I'd be very happy with
I
that.
think you'll be there. I think you'll be higher. I think once you get in the swing of things, it'll come to you. I really do.
I'm glad you ain't wishing no downswings on me.
I'm not. Nothing but the best from a brother there.
Man, I appreciate it. I do want to thank you one more time, Nitwit. You're a brother. You're bigger than a friend. Thank you again, man.
It's great seeing you,
You
and
too,
I'll
man.
see you soon, I'm sure.
Y'all like, subscribe. Even though he ain't putting out content right now, go show him some love at his channel. And if you want to see some real fun times, stick along. I'm going to keep it authentic. I'm going to keep it real. Hopefully I'll have more interviews like this because this is what I really love to do. This is so cool getting to sit down and talk with you, man.
I love this. I know
appreciate
we've been talking about this since we've met, so I'm
Yes.
glad this has finally happened. I really am.
All right, man. Thank you again.
I
I'll
appreciate
see y'all
you.
next time. Please like, subscribe, comment.